The silent revenge. A love that changed everything. Rain poured heavily over the city as a young woman hurried through the crowded streets, protecting a small bag of medicine beneath her scarf. Her name was Ayesha. At just 24 years old, she carried responsibilities far heavier than her age. After her father's sudden death, she became the only hope for her sick mother and younger brother. Every morning she worked at a small bookstore. Every evening she tutored children to earn a little extra money. Life was difficult, but she refused to complain. She believed that dignity was worth more than wealth. Whenever her mother apologized for becoming a burden, Ayesha would simply smile. "One day, everything will change, Mom. I promise." But deep inside, she wasn't sure if miracles really existed. One afternoon, while returning from work, she noticed a little girl standing alone in the middle of a busy road. A speeding car was racing toward the child. Without thinking twice, Ayesha ran forward. She pulled the frightened girl to safety just seconds before the car crashed into a nearby pole. People gathered around in shock. The driver quickly stepped out. He was tall, well-dressed, and clearly from a wealthy family. His name was Hamza Malik. Instead of blaming Ayesha, he rushed to thank her for saving his niece's life. Ayesha quietly smiled. Anyone would have done the same. Hamza looked at her for a moment. There was something different about her. She wasn't impressed by his expensive car. She didn't recognize his famous family name. She simply walked away. For the first time in years, Hamza found himself curious about someone. Days later, destiny brought them together again. Hamza visited the bookstore searching for a rare novel. The owner introduced Ayesha. She immediately found the exact book he wanted. When Hamza offered her a generous tip, she politely refused. "I'm only doing my job." Her honesty surprised him even more. After that day, he found excuses to visit the bookstore again and again. Sometimes he bought books he never planned to read. Sometimes he stayed, just to have a 5-minute conversation with her. Slowly, friendship replaced curiosity. Friendship quietly turned into love. For the first time, Ayesha allowed herself to dream. She imagined a life where happiness wasn't temporary. One evening, Hamza gathered the courage to confess. "I don't care about social status or money. I love you, Ayesha. Will you marry me?" Tears filled Ayesha's eyes. She had never expected someone from such a powerful family to choose her. After seeking her mother's blessing, she accepted. Neither of them knew. Someone was secretly watching from a distance. A woman whose heart was burning with jealousy. Her name was Maywish, and from that very moment, she made a promise to herself. "If I can't have Hamza, no one will." The news of Hamza and Ayesha's engagement spread across the city within days. Some people admired their love story. Others whispered that a poor girl could never survive in the Malik family's mansion. No one was more furious than Maywish. Since childhood, she had dreamed of becoming Hamza's wife. She believed the Malik family's wealth, power, and legacy belonged to her. Now, everything was slipping away. On the day of the wedding, Ayesha entered the grand hall dressed in a breathtaking white bridal gown. She looked elegant, graceful, and innocent. Hamza couldn't take his eyes off her. For a few precious hours, the world felt perfect. But behind the smiling faces, a silent war had already begun. Hamza's mother, Saira Begum, greeted Ayesha with a forced smile. Inside, she was deeply disappointed. She had always wanted her son to marry into one of the richest families in the country. To her, Ayesha was nothing more than an outsider. The very next morning after the wedding, Ayesha woke up before sunrise. She prepared breakfast for the entire family with her own hands. Instead of appreciation, she received criticism. "This tea is too cold. The food has no taste." Girls from ordinary families never learn proper manners. Every insult pierced her heart, yet she remained silent. She believed patience could win every battle. Hamza was too busy expanding the family business to notice what was happening inside his own home. Whenever Ayesha tried to tell him about the constant humiliation, she stopped herself. She didn't want to become the reason for conflict between a son and his mother. Maywish saw this silence as an opportunity. Every day, she carefully poisoned Saira Begum's mind. She only married Hamza for money. She's pretending to be innocent. One day she'll take everything from your family, little by little. Those poisonous words began to grow like seeds. Meanwhile, Hamza surprised Ayesha with a romantic anniversary trip. For the first time since their marriage, They laughed together. They dreamed about building a family. They promised to trust each other forever. Watching them from afar, Maywish's jealousy turned into hatred. She knew that as long as their trust remained strong, she could never separate them. So she created a dangerous plan. She hired a corrupt private investigator. She paid him a fortune to secretly follow Ayesha everywhere. Weeks passed. The investigator found nothing. Ayesha was completely innocent. Frustrated, Maywish gave a cold smile. If reality doesn't help me, I'll create my own reality. She ordered fake text messages to be designed. Edited photographs were created using advanced software. Even forged hotel records were prepared. Every fake document told the same story, that Ayesha was secretly meeting another man. The evidence looked frighteningly real. One rainy evening, Maywish placed the file inside Hamza's office drawer. Then she anonymously sent him a single message. If you truly want to know who your wife is, open the file before it's too late. Hamza stared at the message. His hand slowly reached for the drawer. He had no idea that opening that file would destroy everything he loved. Hamza's hands trembled as he slowly opened the mysterious file. Inside were dozens of photographs. Every picture appeared to show Ayesha meeting an unknown man. There were printed text messages filled with words of love, hotel receipts, phone records, even handwritten notes. Everything looked terrifyingly real. Hamza's heart pounded with anger. No, this can't be true. He wanted to believe his wife, but the evidence was so convincing that doubt quietly replaced love. That evening, Ayesha returned home carrying Hamza's favorite dessert. She smiled as she walked into the living room. She had no idea a storm was waiting for her. Hamza was sitting in complete silence. The photographs were spread across the table. His eyes were filled with pain. Ayesha's smile disappeared. Hamza, what happened? Without saying a word, he threw the photographs toward her. They scattered across the floor. Ayesha froze. She picked up one picture after another. Shock filled her face. These are fake. I've never seen this man before. Hamza refused to listen. Stop lying, he shouted. I trusted you with my life. Tears rolled down Ayesha's cheeks. Please look into my eyes. You know me. You know I could never betray you. But anger had already blinded him. At that exact moment, Saira Begum entered the room. She pretended to be heartbroken. I warned you, Hamza. Girls like her only know how to deceive. Standing quietly behind her, Maywish hid a satisfied smile. Everything was happening exactly as she had planned. Ayesha fell to her knees. She begged Hamza to investigate the truth. Please don't punish me without hearing me. I swear on our love, I'm innocent. For a brief second, Hamza almost believed her. But then he looked at the fake evidence once more. His heart turned cold. Leave this house. The words echoed through the mansion. Ayesha couldn't believe what she had heard. Hamza, where will I go? He looked away. I don't care. That single sentence shattered her world. Slowly she stood up. She wiped away her tears. Without taking a single piece of jewelry, without asking for anything, she walked toward the front door. Just before leaving, she placed one hand over her stomach, a secret she had been waiting to share with Hamza. She was carrying his child, but after everything that had happened, she chose silence. One day, she whispered to herself, the truth will return, even if I never do. The mansion doors closed behind her. Outside, heavy rain poured from the sky. Ayesha walked alone into the darkness. No family, no home, no future she could see, only a broken heart, and the tiny life growing inside her. Behind the curtains of the mansion, Maywish watched her disappear. A slow smile crossed her face. She believed she had won. But fate was only beginning to write its final chapter. Because every lie carries the seed of its own destruction. The conference room of Malik Group was filled with fear and uncertainty. Board members argued with one another. Lawyers reviewed hundreds of confidential files. Financial experts searched desperately for answers. No one could explain how millions had vanished overnight. The company's reputation was collapsing. Investors were pulling out. The media had already declared it the biggest corporate scandal of the year. Hamza stood silently at the head of the table. For the first time in his life, he had no solution. Finally, the chairman spoke. There is only one lawyer with a perfect record in cases like this. Ayesha Khan. The room fell silent. Hamza closed his eyes. Fate was forcing him to face the woman he had betrayed. The next morning, Hamza arrived at Khan and Associates, the most respected law firm in the city. He stepped into the elegant reception hall. Luxury surrounded him. Awards covered every wall. Magazine covers proudly displayed the face of Ayesha Khan, the woman who never lost a case. The Iron Lady of Justice, Pakistan's most influential lawyer. Each headline felt like a knife piercing Hamza's heart. A receptionist smiled politely. "Mr. Malik, Ms. Khan will see you now." Hamza took a deep breath. He slowly opened the office door. There she was, standing beside a floor-to-ceiling window, dressed in a black business suit. Calm, confident, powerful. The frightened young woman he once knew was gone. Ayesha turned around. Their eyes met after 7 long years. Neither of them spoke. The silence was louder than words. Finally, Ayesha broke the silence. "Please have a seat, Mr. Malik." Her voice was calm, professional, emotionless. Hamza sat down, unable to look directly into her eyes. "I never thought we'd meet like this," he whispered. Ayesha gently closed the case file in front of her. "Life has a strange way of bringing people back." Hamza gathered the courage to explain the fraud. He admitted that someone inside the company had stolen millions and forged financial records. He needed the best lawyer. He needed her. Ayesha listened carefully without interrupting. When he finished, she looked directly at him. "I accept cases, not emotions. If I take this case, I will follow the evidence wherever it leads, even if the truth destroys your own family." Hamza nodded. "I understand." She handed him a contract. "Then sign it." Without hesitation, he signed. As he stood to leave, his eyes stopped on a framed photograph sitting on Ayesha's desk. It showed Ayesha smiling beside a young boy around 6 years old. The child looked strangely familiar. He had Hamza's eyes. The same smile. The same face. Hamza stared at the picture. "Is he your son?" Ayesha looked at the photograph for a moment. A soft smile appeared on her face. "Yes. His name is Ayan." Before Hamza could ask another question, a little voice echoed from outside the office. "Mom!" The office door opened. A young boy ran inside and hugged Ayesha tightly. She kissed his forehead with endless love. Hamza watched in complete silence. Something inside him began to tremble. He couldn't explain why, but every instinct in his heart whispered the same terrifying truth. Ayan wasn't just Ayesha's son. He was his son too, and Hamza still had no idea that the biggest secret of his life was standing only a few feet away. Hamza stood frozen. His eyes remained fixed on the little boy. There was something strangely familiar about him. The same sharp eyes, the same confident smile, the same habit of tilting his head while asking questions. It felt as if he were looking at his own childhood. Ayan smiled politely. "Hello, uncle." Hamza forced a smile. "Hello, young man." Ayesha gently placed her hand on Ayan's shoulder. "Sweetheart, I'll be with you in a few minutes. Please wait outside with Sarah." Ayan nodded obediently before leaving the office. As soon as the door closed, silence returned. Hamza couldn't stop thinking about the child. "He's a wonderful boy," he said softly. Ayesha simply smiled. "He's my greatest blessing." Nothing more. Nothing less. Hamza wanted to ask who Ayan's father was, but somehow, he didn't have the courage. Instead, he quietly walked away. The investigation officially began the next morning. Ayesha assembled a team of the country's best forensic accountants and legal experts. Every bank transfer, every financial statement, every email, every hidden contract was carefully examined. Within days, she noticed a disturbing pattern. The missing money had never left the company directly. It had been transferred through several fake businesses. Someone inside Malik Group had planned everything for years. Meanwhile, Maywish grew nervous. She had expected an ordinary lawyer, not Ayesha. She knew exactly how intelligent Ayesha was. For the first time in 7 years, fear entered her heart. She secretly met with one of the company's corrupt directors. "Destroy every remaining document," she ordered. "If Ayesha finds the original records, we're finished." The director agreed. That same night, 2 masked men broke into the company's archive room. They poured gasoline over shelves filled with confidential files. Seconds later, the building was on fire. Flames spread through the entire records department. News channels rushed to the scene. Everyone believed the evidence had been destroyed forever. But Ayesha wasn't easily defeated. Standing outside the burning building, She quietly smiled. They're too late. Earlier that afternoon, she had already ordered certified digital copies of every important document. The criminals had burned paper, but the truth was still alive. The next morning, Ayesha carefully reviewed the digital files. One transaction immediately caught her attention. A payment worth $8 million had been transferred to a shell company owned by someone using a fake identity. She traced the account, then another, and another. Each transaction pointed toward the same hidden network. Finally, one name appeared on her screen, a name she never expected to see. Maywish. Ayesha leaned back in her chair. Everything suddenly made sense. The fake evidence, the lies, the betrayal, the financial fraud. It was all connected. At that very moment, Hamza entered her office. He looked exhausted. Did you find anything? He asked. Ayesha slowly closed the file. She looked directly into his eyes. Yes, and when I reveal the truth, your entire family will never be the same again. Outside the office window, Maywish watched from inside her car. She saw Hamza talking to Ayesha. Her hands tightened around the steering wheel. She whispered to herself, if Ayesha gets any closer to the truth, I'll make sure she never lives long enough to tell it. For the first time, the battle was no longer just about revenge. It had become a fight for survival. The following morning, Ayesha arrived at her office earlier than usual. She couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching her. From the window of a black SUV parked across the street, Maywish watched every move. Her patience was running out. For 7 years, she had hidden the truth. Now, Ayesha was only one step away from exposing everything. Maywish picked up her phone. Finish this today, she said coldly. It has to look like an accident. The call ended. Across the city, Ayesha prepared to meet a former Malik Group accountant. His name was Asif Qureshi. He had suddenly requested a secret meeting. According to him, he possessed documents that could destroy the real mastermind behind the fraud. Before leaving, Ayesha called her assistant. If anything happens to me, send the encrypted case files directly to the police. Her assistant looked confused. Are you expecting trouble? Ayesha smiled faintly. When criminals begin to panic, they stop making smart decisions. That afternoon, Ayesha drove alone toward an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of a city. The streets became quieter. The buildings disappeared. Only silence remained. As she entered the warehouse, she noticed Asif standing in the shadows. His face was pale. His hands were shaking. Thank God you came, he whispered. They're trying to kill me. He handed Ayesha a small flash drive. Everything is here. Bank transfers, fake companies, secret recordings. Even proof that Maywish framed you 7 years ago. Before Ayesha could ask another question, a loud gunshot echoed through the warehouse. Bang! The bullet struck a metal pillar only inches from her head. Another shot followed. The lights shattered. Darkness filled the building. Masked men rushed inside from every direction. Take the flash drive, one of them shouted. Asif pushed Ayesha behind a stack of crates. Run! More gunshots echoed through the warehouse. Chaos erupted. Ayesha escaped through a broken side door and reached her car. She sped away, just as another bullet shattered her rear window. The attackers failed, but Asif never came out. That evening, television channels reported shocking news. Former Malik Group accountant Asif Qureshi found dead in an apparent warehouse shooting. The police called it a gang-related incident. But Ayesha knew better. Someone had murdered the only witness. She looked at the flash drive in her hand. You didn't die for nothing, she whispered. Meanwhile, Hamza watched the breaking news in disbelief. He immediately rushed to Ayesha's office. When he saw the shattered glass on her car, his heart sank. Are you hurt? He asked anxiously. Ayesha looked at him for a long moment. Someone tried to kill me today. Hamza's face turned pale. Who? Ayesha held up the flash drive. The same person who destroyed our marriage. The same person who's stealing your company. And the same person who's willing to kill anyone to protect the truth. Hamza clenched his fists. For the first time, he realized this wasn't just a legal battle anymore. It was a war. And the enemy was far closer to his family than he had ever imagined. The entire city was shaken by the warehouse shooting. News channels called it a failed business deal. The police labeled it an organized crime incident. But Ayesha knew the truth. Someone was desperately trying to erase every witness. Late that night, Ayesha locked herself inside her office. Only one lamp illuminated the room. She placed the flash drive into her laptop. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then, dozens of encrypted folders appeared on the screen. One by one, she opened them. Bank statements, secret contracts, recorded phone calls, fake identity documents. Everything pointed toward one criminal network. As she continued reading, one video file caught her attention. Its title was simple: Watch Before It's Too Late. She clicked play. The screen came alive. It showed a hidden camera recording from 7 years earlier. Ayesha's heartbeat quickened. The video revealed Maywish sitting inside a private office with a corrupt investigator. A bag full of cash lay on the table. Maywish smiled coldly. I don't care how you do it. Create fake messages. Edit the photographs. I want Hamza to believe Ayesha betrayed him. The investigator nodded. What if the truth comes out one day? Maywish laughed. It never will. Because dead secrets tell no stories. The recording ended. Tears filled Ayesha's eyes. For 7 years, she had carried the pain of an accusation she never deserved. Now, the truth was finally in her hands. But there was another file. This one was marked Confidential, Malik Group. Inside was a complete list of illegal financial transactions. Millions of dollars had been stolen over several years. Every transfer ended in companies secretly controlled by Maywish and 2 senior executives. One final document made Ayesha freeze. It was a signed agreement. The signature belonged to Hamza's uncle, Khalid Malik. He wasn't a victim. He was one of the masterminds. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed from the hallway. Someone was outside her office. The lights flickered. Footsteps slowly approached. Ayesha immediately copied every file to secure cloud storage and sent encrypted backups to her trusted assistant. Then she hid the original flash drive inside a law book. The office door handle slowly turned. Someone was trying to get inside. Ayesha quietly picked up her phone and pressed the emergency call button. The door burst open. 2 masked men rushed into the room. They searched every drawer, every cabinet, every file, but they couldn't find the flash drive. Police sirens echoed outside the building. The attackers escaped through the emergency staircase just seconds before officers entered. When the police questioned Ayesha, she said only one sentence. They weren't looking for money. They were looking for the truth. The next morning, Hamza arrived at Ayesha's office. He found her standing by the window, calm but determined. Without saying a word, she placed a tablet in front of him. Watch this. Hamza pressed play. As Maywish's confession echoed through the room, the color drained from his face. His hands began to shake. Every lie, every betrayal, every moment he had doubted Ayesha came crashing back. Tears rolled down his cheeks. My God, he whispered. What have I done? Ayesha looked at him with quiet strength. This is only the beginning, Hamza. The real battle starts in court. Outside the office, Maywish watched from her car once again. She received a phone call. A cold voice spoke only 4 words. Plan B starts today. Maywish slowly smiled. If she couldn't destroy the evidence, she would destroy the people holding it. The city woke up to another shocking headline. The Malik Group fraud case takes a dangerous turn. Every news channel was discussing Ayesha. Some called her the bravest lawyer in the country. Others warned that her life was in danger. Ayesha ignored the attention. She had only one goal: expose every criminal, no matter the cost. Meanwhile, Maywish was running out of time. The video confession had already reached Hamza. Soon, the entire truth would reach the courtroom. She knew there was only one way left to stop Ayesha. Attack the person she loved most. Her son. That afternoon, 7-year-old Ayan finished school and waited outside for the family driver. He smiled while reading the comic book Ayesha had bought him. A black van slowly stopped nearby. A woman stepped out wearing a school staff uniform. She smiled warmly. Ayan, your mom sent me to pick you up. Ayan frowned. Mom always comes herself, or Uncle Kareem does. The woman's smile disappeared. Within seconds, 2 masked men rushed out of the van. They grabbed Ayan before he could scream. His school bag fell onto the road. The van disappeared into traffic. 30 minutes later, Ayesha arrived at the school. She immediately noticed the empty pickup area. Then she saw Ayan's backpack lying on the ground. Her heart stopped. Where is my son? Teachers looked at one another in confusion. Security cameras were checked. The horrifying footage showed everything. Ayan had been kidnapped. Ayesha collapsed to her knees. For the first time in years, fear replaced her strength. Her phone rang. An unknown number. She answered immediately. A distorted voice spoke slowly. If you ever want to see your son alive, withdraw the case. Destroy every piece of evidence. And tell no one. The call ended. Ayesha stood frozen. Tears streamed down her face. She whispered only one word. Ayan. Just then, Hamza arrived at the school after hearing the news. He saw Ayesha crying for the first time since they had reunited. What happened? He asked. She handed him the phone. They took my son. Hamza's face turned pale. Without thinking, he held her shoulders. We'll bring him back. Ayesha looked directly into his eyes. They kidnapped him because of me. Hamza shook his head. No! They kidnapped him because of us. For the first time, he felt a father's fear, even though he still didn't know the truth. That evening, police formed special investigation teams. Roadblocks were set across the city. Every CCTV camera was reviewed. Every highway was monitored. But the kidnappers had vanished. Inside an abandoned farmhouse, Ayan sat tied to a wooden chair. He wasn't crying. He remembered something his mother had always taught him. Never panic. Keep your eyes open. Look for a way out. Quietly, he noticed a loose nail sticking out of the chair. Without making a sound, he slowly began cutting the rope around his wrists. Outside the room, the kidnappers laughed. None of them realized that the little boy they had kidnapped was already planning his escape. The old farmhouse stood in complete silence. Rain tapped against the broken windows. Inside, Ayan carefully rubbed the rope against the loose nail hidden behind the chair. His tiny hands were bleeding, but he refused to give up. He remembered his mother's words. Courage doesn't mean you're not afraid. It means you keep going despite your fear. Finally, the rope snapped. Ayan slowly freed his hands. He quietly looked around the room. The kidnappers were laughing in the next hall. One of them said, Once Maywish gives the order, we'll move the boy before sunrise. Ayan's heart raced. Maywish. He had heard that name before. His mother had mentioned it while working late on her case. He knew she was dangerous. Meanwhile, at police headquarters, Ayesha refused to leave. She stared at the city map, searching for any clue. Every passing minute felt like an eternity. Hamza watched her silently. For 7 years, he had believed she was weak. Now he saw the strongest woman he had ever known. She hadn't slept. She hadn't eaten. She only wanted one thing. Her son back. Suddenly, Hamza remembered something. Years ago, Malik Group had owned an abandoned farmhouse outside the city. It had been used as a storage facility before being shut down. Only a few family members knew about it, including Maywish. Hamza immediately stood up. I know where they might be. Within minutes, police vehicles raced through the dark highway. Their sirens echoed across the empty roads. Ayesha sat beside Hamza. Neither of them spoke. Both were praying for the same miracle. Back at the farmhouse, Ayan quietly opened the old wooden door. He stepped into the hallway. Just a few feet away, a kidnapper noticed movement. Hey! Stop him! Ayan ran as fast as he could. The kidnappers chased him through the dark building. He reached the back door, but it was locked. Footsteps grew louder. There was nowhere left to run. Just as one kidnapper grabbed his shoulder, bang! The farmhouse door exploded open. Police officers stormed inside. Police, drop your weapons. Gunfire echoed through the building. The kidnappers scattered in panic. Ayesha rushed inside, calling out desperately. Ayan! Ayan! From behind a broken wall, a tiny voice answered, Mom! Ayesha turned. Ayan ran straight into her arms. She hugged him tightly, unable to stop crying. I'm here. I'm here. She whispered. No one will ever take you away again. Watching them from across the room, Hamza felt tears fill his eyes. He realized something he could no longer deny. The love Ayesha had for Ayan, the way the boy looked at him, the resemblance. It all pointed toward one truth. After the police secured the building, Hamza quietly approached Ayesha. His voice trembled. Ayesha, there's something I've wanted to ask for days. She looked at him without speaking. He glanced at Ayan, then back at her. Is he? He struggled to finish the sentence. Is Ayan my son? A long silence filled the room. Ayesha closed her eyes. For 7 years, she had carried the secret alone. Slowly, she opened her eyes and met Hamza's gaze. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "Yes," she whispered. "He's your son." The world seemed to stop. Hamza stood frozen. His knees nearly gave way. 7 years. He had missed his son's first smile, his first word, his first step, his first day at school. All because he had believed a lie. Overcome with guilt, he fell to his knees. Tears streamed down his face. "Forgive me," he whispered. "I failed both of you." Ayesha remained silent. This wasn't the time for forgiveness. The war wasn't over yet, because somewhere in the darkness, Maywish had escaped, and she was already planning one final move. The rescue of Ayan became breaking news across the country. Every television channel praised the police operation. But one person watched the news with burning anger. Maywish. She had escaped only minutes before the raid. Now, everything she had built over the last 7 years was falling apart. She knew she had only one chance left. Destroy the evidence and silence the final witness. Inside the Malik mansion, Hamza sat alone in his father's old study. The room was dark. Only one photograph rested in his hands. It was the picture of Ayan, his son, the son he had never known. Tears rolled down his face. "I wasn't there when you needed me," he whispered. "But I swear, no one will ever hurt you again." For the first time in years, Hamza stopped blaming fate. He blamed himself. Meanwhile, Ayesha prepared for the biggest court case of her career. Her legal team organized thousands of documents, bank records, video recordings, phone logs, financial statements. Every piece of evidence was ready. But one thing was still missing: a living witness. Without a witness, the defense could claim every document had been fabricated. Ayesha needed someone who had seen everything from the beginning. Then suddenly, her phone rang. An unknown number. She answered carefully. A weak voice spoke. "Ms. Ayesha, this is Imran, the corrupt private investigator. The same man who had created the fake evidence 7 years earlier." Ayesha's heartbeat quickened. "I know I've committed terrible crimes," he said, "but I can't live with this guilt anymore. I want to tell the truth in court." He revealed something even more shocking. "Maywish ordered everything. She paid me to destroy your marriage. And Khalid Malik financed the entire operation." Ayesha closed her eyes. This was the final piece of the puzzle. "Where are you?" she asked. "I'll send police protection immediately." Imran gave her an address. An old motel outside the city. Unknown to both of them, someone else was listening. Maywish had secretly installed spyware on Imran's phone weeks earlier. She heard every word. Her face turned pale. "If Imran reaches the courtroom, I'm finished." Without wasting another second, she grabbed her car keys. Hamza insisted on going with Ayesha. Together with a police escort, they rushed toward the motel. Every minute mattered. Every second could mean the difference between life and death. When they arrived, the motel reception was empty. The hallway lights flickered. Room number 17 stood half open. Ayesha slowly pushed the door. Inside, everything was covered in silence. Furniture was overturned. Broken glass covered the floor. Blood stained the carpet. But Imran was gone. Only a voice recorder remained on the table. Ayesha pressed play. Imran's frightened voice echoed through the room. "If you're hearing this, they found me. Maywish framed Ayesha. Khalid stole the company's money. Hamza was never supposed to know the truth." Suddenly, a loud explosion shook the building. Boom! The motel burst into flames. Someone had planted explosives. Hamza grabbed Ayesha's hand. "Run!" They escaped through the back entrance, just seconds before the entire room collapsed into fire. Standing across the road, a black car slowly drove away. Inside it, Maywish watched the burning motel through her rearview mirror. She smiled. She believed the last witness was dead, but she had made one fatal mistake. She had forgotten. The voice recorder had survived. And now, it contained the confession that could destroy her forever. The morning of the trial arrived. Long before sunrise, hundreds of reporters gathered outside the city high court. Television cameras broadcast the case live across the country. People called it the trial that would change everything. Inside the courtroom, every seat was occupied. Business leaders, journalists, police officers, law students. Everyone wanted to witness the verdict that had been 7 years in the making. At exactly 10 a.m., the judge entered. Court is now in session. The room fell silent. Ayesha stood confidently at the prosecution table. For the first time in 7 years, she wasn't standing there as a victim. She was standing there as the woman who had come to reclaim the truth. Across the courtroom, Maywish sat beside her expensive defense lawyers. She appeared calm, but her trembling hands revealed the fear hidden inside. Behind her sat Khalid Malik. His face had turned pale. He knew one mistake could send him to prison for life. The judge looked toward Ayesha. "Counselor, you may begin." Ayesha slowly walked to the center of the courtroom. She looked around the room before speaking. 7 years ago, a woman's life was destroyed, not because she was guilty, but because powerful people believed lies instead of truth. The courtroom remained silent. She continued, "Today isn't only about financial fraud. Today is about betrayal, greed, and justice." She presented the forged photographs. Then, she proved how each image had been digitally manipulated. Experts explained every edit. One by one, the fake messages were exposed. The hotel records were declared forged. The false signatures were proven to be fabricated. Whispers spread throughout the courtroom. The defense lawyers began losing confidence. Then, Ayesha played the secret video recovered from the flash drive. The courtroom screens came alive. Maywish appeared on video handing money to the corrupt investigator. Her voice echoed through the courtroom. "Create fake messages. I want Hamza to believe Ayesha betrayed him." The courtroom exploded with shock. Journalists immediately began taking notes. Hamza lowered his head. Tears rolled down his face. The judge turned toward Maywish. "Do you deny this recording?" For the first time, she couldn't answer. But Ayesha wasn't finished. She placed another piece of evidence before the court, the surviving voice recorder from Motel Room 17. She pressed play. Imran's voice filled the courtroom. Maywish ordered everything. Khalid Malik financed the conspiracy. Ayesha was innocent from the beginning. Silence. Complete silence. Then, the prosecutor called the forensic experts. They confirmed that both the video and the audio recording were authentic. There had been no editing, no manipulation, only the truth. The judge looked directly at Khalid. "Do you have anything to say?" Khalid stood up slowly. His confidence had vanished. He looked toward Maywish. She refused to meet his eyes. Realizing the game was over, Khalid finally spoke. "Yes, everything is true." Gasps echoed throughout the courtroom. "We stole the company's money." Maywish framed Ayesha. Hamza never knew about any of it. Maywish suddenly jumped to her feet. "He's lying," she screamed. "Don't believe him." But no one was listening anymore. The walls of lies she had built over 7 years had finally collapsed. The judge struck the gavel. "Order in the court." Police officers stepped forward. Handcuffs clicked around Khalid's wrists. Another pair closed around Maywish's hands. As she was led away, she looked at Ayesha with tears of rage. "You ruined my life." Ayesha looked back calmly. "No. You ruined your own life the day you chose lies over love." The courtroom fell silent once again. Justice had finally spoken. But outside the courthouse, a black motorcycle was parked across the street. A man wearing a helmet watched everything from a distance. He quietly made a phone call. The mission failed. He paused, then whispered, "Should we eliminate Hamza next?" The call ended. The rider started the engine and disappeared into the crowded streets. Because although the trial was over, the danger was not. The courthouse was surrounded by reporters, microphones, camera flashes, breaking news banners. Every television channel celebrated Ayesha's historic victory. The country believed the nightmare was finally over. But Ayesha wasn't smiling. Something didn't feel right. The mysterious phone call, the man on the motorcycle, it all suggested one thing. Someone more powerful was still hiding in the shadows. As Hamza, Ayesha, and Ayan walked toward their car, police officers formed a security circle around them. Suddenly, a black motorcycle appeared at the end of the street. Its engine roared. The rider accelerated directly toward Hamza. Everything happened in seconds. The assassin pulled out a silenced pistol. Bang! A gunshot echoed through the air. Without thinking, Hamza pushed Ayesha and Ayan behind the police vehicle. The bullet struck Hamza in the shoulder. People screamed. Journalists ran for cover. Police officers returned fire. The motorcyclist sped away through traffic. Within moments, the entire city center was sealed off. Hamza collapsed onto the pavement. Blood soaked his white shirt. Ayesha fell beside him. Her hands trembled as she tried to stop the bleeding. "Stay with me," she cried. For the first time in years, her calmness disappeared. Hamza smiled weakly. "I finally protected my family." Ayesha's eyes filled with tears. "Don't you dare leave us now." Little Ayan grabbed Hamza's hand. "Dad!" It was the first time he had ever used that word. Hamza looked at his son. Tears rolled down his face. "Say it again," he whispered. "Dad!" A faint smile appeared on Hamza's face before he lost consciousness. Doctors rushed him into emergency surgery. Outside the operating room, Ayesha waited in silence. Hours passed. Every second felt like forever. Finally, the surgeon walked out. The surgery was successful. "He'll survive." Ayesha closed her eyes in relief. For the first time in 7 years, she thanked God without asking for anything else. Meanwhile, police investigators examined the assassin's abandoned motorcycle. Inside a hidden compartment, they found a burner phone. The last outgoing call had been made only 20 minutes before the attack. The number belonged to Chairman Farooq Siddiqui, the founder of Malik Group, the man everyone believed had retired years ago. Hamza's own mentor, the person who had secretly controlled the company from behind the scenes. Investigators quickly searched his private office. Behind a hidden bookshelf, they discovered secret financial records, offshore accounts, illegal contracts, bribery payments. Evidence proved one shocking truth. Farooq Siddiqui had been the real mastermind all along. Khalid and Maywish had only been his pawns. He had ordered every crime, every betrayal, every murder, every cover-up. Late that night, police surrounded Farooq's luxurious countryside estate, but he had no intention of surrendering. As officers entered the mansion, they found him standing alone in his study. A loaded revolver rested on the desk. Farooq smiled coldly. "I built this empire. No court will take it away from me." He reached for the weapon. Police shouted, "Drop the gun." Farooq fired. Officers immediately returned fire. Seconds later, silence filled the mansion. The man who had destroyed countless lives lay motionless on the floor. His empire had fallen forever. A few weeks later, Hamza fully recovered. One quiet evening, he stood beside Ayesha and Ayan in a peaceful park. The setting sun painted the sky with shades of gold. There were no bodyguards, no reporters, no lies, only peace. Hamza looked at Ayesha. "I know I can never erase the pain I caused, but if you'll allow me, I'll spend the rest of my life earning your trust again." Ayesha remained silent for a moment. Then she gently took Ayan's hand. She looked at Hamza. "Trust isn't rebuilt with promises. It's rebuilt with actions." Hamza nodded. "Then I'll prove it. Every single day." Ayesha gave him a small smile. Not because the past had disappeared, but because the future was finally free from lies. Sometimes, justice doesn't erase pain, but it gives broken hearts a chance to heal. The end.